First of all, a very warm welcome, all of you. Thank you for taking the time and joining us today. We're going to actually go through a little bit of information about the Facilitation 101, the IAF endorsed training program. We share with you some thoughts. The agenda would look something like this. We would look at getting to know each other and then moving into what is facilitation. Also then building up on where can you use it. Perhaps we'll even showcase an example over there. And then we'll get into the little bit of detail about the IAF endorsed program, what to expect there. We have set aside a little time for you to interact with one of our alumni members who would join us as we go through the webinar. And he can share his thoughts, his experiences, and if you have any questions of him, he would graciously accepted to answer them. And then we look at what next, how do we move further on this journey of Facilitation 101. Does the agenda look okay to all of you? Is there something else that you think we need to add?
No, I think it should be fine. We'll carry on with this.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, folks. Okay. And so let's get right started with the very first part of getting to know each other. We'll do that in a very simple way, just like getting all of you to just share on the chat, right? Your name, your organization, your title, your current level of experience as a facilitator, and your one key expectation from the webinar today. The webinar will be interactive. Other than the interactive bit, any key expectation that you may have. So let's flood the chat. Okay. For those who are just joined in, we are just getting to know each other, and we are looking at typing in the things that you just see on the screen. Okay, so let's see what we have got so far. Okay, Geeta Solaraj. Suresh Kumar from Pravara. I help people increase their performance by 20% in 2 months. Awesome. Also an executive coach. Okay, been in for 13 years. Interested to know about Facilitation 101. Thank you. Sushma from Vimashri Training Services, owner, 10 years of experience as a facilitator. Any expectation that you might have, Sushma? And Bipin Singh from Adama India Private Limited. Okay, let's wait for the others to type in a quick note on the chat. Okay, Geeta, psychologist, mental health counselor, Banjara Academy, 1 year with IAF. Just looking to watch and learn from Sanjay. Okay, that's speaking a little too much for me. Applying pressure, are you, Geeta? Okay, Vinesh from Ultratech, around 9 years experience in HR. Great, you want to learn more about facilitation. Awesome. Okay, yeah, now we are getting a flood of things on the chat. I would encourage you to scroll through and read the information there so that you know who's who in the room. So you'll get a chance to talk to each other as well. Awesome. Okay, so basically looking at a lot of information, people want to know a little more about facilitation, all of that. So thank you. Perhaps all the expectations that you have shared will probably be covered. And if there is anything that we missed out, we'll take it offline. All right. So what is facilitation? So you will be put into breakout rooms. Please discuss and get your thoughts about this question. What is facilitation? And once you're back, have one person from your room share your thoughts on the chat. We'll be having the breakout room for about 4 minutes. I know it's going to be a bit tight, but then we are constrained with time. So we're going to have, just 3 breakout rooms. And I'm going to be giving you, like I said, 4 minutes. You will still have a grace time after that, about 10 or 15 seconds for you after the breakout room closes, in which time you will be automatically brought back into the main room. Okay, you should expect about 3 or 4 people in each room. Have a quick discussion about facilitation. That people will have different perspectives. Just respect the opinion of everyone and let's hear what we think. We're not here trying to get it right or wrong. We are just here to understand what we know about facilitation. Okay. Any questions before I open the breakout rooms for you? Okay, if there are no questions, then you can type a NQ on the chat, which tells me that you have no questions. Okay, awesome. I got a few NQs. Here we go. I'm opening the rooms now. Enjoy your 4 minutes and see you after you're back. For those who are on Facebook Live, if you wish to respond, please type your information on the chat and we'll get your insights into the session as well. Okay, we have Santosh and Vinesh back. Did you finish or did you accidentally come out?
We actually discussed and all of us were on the same page. So we thought, I think.
Awesome. Okay. Oh, okay. Ramchandra is back as well. Okay. Brilliant. So maybe you can put your thoughts on the chat as soon as everyone is back. They should be back in 15 seconds. All right, everyone, welcome back. And I'm sure you know what to do next. And there we go. Facilitation is, and we need the answer to that. Please type your answers in the chat. If you have more than one answer, that's fine as well. Okay, there we go. Equal responsibility, bringing out the best with right set of questions, creative learning. Facilitation is creation and not consumption. Okay, resolution of issues, easing the process. Oh, okay, we're getting a lot of thoughts there. Awesome. All right, let's start with a little deeper understanding of what is written in the text. Can I invite Geeta to please share your thoughts? Equal responsibility and the rest of it. Would you like to just share what you meant by that?
Yeah, actually that was Mayank's input. Mayank, do you want to go ahead? Because I was just writing down and I'm typing. So because it's going to the group, so I think Mayank would be a better person to give you.
All right. Yeah.
So I think a facilitator has a very strong ability to extract right set of responses from the participants basis the experience that they possess or the experience that they put the participants through the learning initiative or whatever they've planned for the session. They are people who create a very non-judgmental environment where everybody is comfortable to share their views and perspectives and nothing is right or wrong. And probably we build further and get where we are supposed to go.
Awesome. Thank you, Mayank. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. And Karishma, facilitation is creation and not consumption. Would you like to explain?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, my idea of this thought is basically I'm not a good trainer, I know for a fact, but I can definitely facilitate a discussion around topics. So that's the way I see it. And you may not be a master of a topic to facilitate, but as long as you can bring two people together, it might be in a formal, informal setting. It could be anything. So facilitation is not necessarily in a classroom environment all the time. That's what I would say. So as long as there is some amount of knowledge sharing happening, it is facilitation.
Lovely thoughts there. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, and Ramchandra, Ram, would you like to explain what you have mentioned? Ram, are you in? Okay, we'll let's see if we can come back to him later. Vinesh, I think you've got a fairly detailed description. Would you like to share your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think specifically coming more from the HR experience, I think what I see facilitation is maybe I think guiding a process, people, thoughts, actions towards I think either it is a desired outcome or more of a exploratory outcomes, which I think we don't know what exactly we are heading towards. Maybe I think we want to co-create and build something, and maybe a role of facilitator is very important to hold everything together as a part of the process.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. And yeah, lots of other interesting messages, but let's move on. We'll move forward and we'll explore a little bit more. Do look up the chat so you can actually see what it is about. And I thought to bring the entire thing about facilitation alive, I thought of describing it as a comparison between how much of content and how much of process people bring to the event, right? So more of own content on the left side. So you see that the whole, if you take a vertical bar, you'll see high amount of content area and less in the process area. That's the left-hand side. On the right-hand side extreme, you have less of own content and a lot more around process, right? And the question that I have for y'all is that if you think about these content and process from the aspect of these different interventions that people have or interactions that people have, like teaching, lecturing, training, mediation, mentoring, consulting, coaching, counseling, we'll go one by one and we see where do you think it fits, a little to the left, maybe in the middle or more to the right. Where do you think it goes? So let's start with teaching. Where
more more of own content on the
more
left
on
side.
the content.
Yeah.
Mayank, so the teacher actually brings in a lot of content, has a little bit of process, maybe some structure, maybe a way to do it, maybe in a certain amount of time, a certain outcome is expected where the learner has learned a few things and maybe even check later for understanding whatever it is. So it is a lot more towards the left. Lecturing.
Lecturing is also on the content part.
More heavy on the content side, right? Probably even a little more to the left of where the teaching part is. What about training?
Maybe around 80% teaching and 80% content and 20% process.
Okay. Any other views? 80% content and 20% process.
I think it's almost 50-50.
Somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
I would say it depends on what is it that you need to train on. So sometimes it is a 100% content and sometimes it's 0% own content.
Yeah, I can imagine, right? First time we are training on a absolutely new product that has come, and then there will be a lot more content and less of a process. But if you're doing some refresher or you're doing some add-on, then there could be a little bit more process and less content. So it could be a variable. Somewhere in the left and middle area is where we see that. The next one, very interesting, mediation. Now, mediation is when you're trying to resolve something between two people, usually off the court. So where do you think that fits?
Less of
Would be a discovery process in all these things. I am not sure whether it fits under content or process, but the first discovery has to happen, and then probably the content or process will come into place.
Okay. So some discovery needs to happen, and that's usually done through a process, and then maybe content and process combination. Any other views? Do you all agree with what was just said, that little bit of discovery and then content process combination?
I felt it's more of process, because in mediation, it's more about hearing both the parties out, and you're trying to find a middle way out. So it's less of what you want. So you, of course, don't work with the content there, but you're trying to find a midway between two different views as such.
Yeah.
Very high on process is what I think.
Yeah. So probably because the mediator has nothing to gain or lose except trying to resolve the, let's say, difference of opinion between the two parties, and he's just coming in to facilitate that and help them resolve and find a way they can live with, right? Even if it's not necessarily optimum, but at least they can live with. So there is a little bit of a discovery phase, which is also a process. And perhaps content may be needed just to help people see a different side of things, maybe, and then a lot more around process. So good combination of thoughts there. Let's do a very quick run on the rest. Mentoring, where does it fit?
Fine balance of both.
Balance of both.
Right, both. So you have your subject matter expertise, which you're trying to impart to your mentee. And of course, if it is not done in a structured process or a structured way, then the mentee never learns anything. So mentoring is a fine art using both content as well as a structure.
Awesome. So you've got the idea, right? I'm not going through all the rest, but you've got the idea that the way you think about it is, okay, if I'm the mentor or if I'm the teacher or if I'm the trainer, what's the background? How much of content do I have to bring in? How much of process do I have to bring in? And then you decide where it fits on this. So if I had to build this up and actually ask you where facilitative training fits, where would you put that? So I'm talking about training where you're not training on a totally new subject, but you're helping make behavioral shifts or enhance their ability to do something, that kind of training. Where would you ideally put that? You can take a guess. There's no right or wrong answer.
So I believe facilitation is 80% of process only, sir. Because when you are, taking the team, you want to bring the team to some consensus. And basically, mostly adults are being involved into it. So whatever they say, you try to build upon that. So it is not more of you teaching them something, but it is coming from them only.
Yeah. Thank you, Kumkum, for sharing that. So that's a lot to do with somewhere about the content really is the what, the subject matter, the information, and the process is how you transfer that to the other side, right? So how do you transfer that to the participants? And that's where facilitative learning is somewhere midway. It is a little higher on process, but it builds a lot on content which you get from the participant, but you top up with additional content because the objective is to get a certain set of things right. Like you don't want the participants to go out of the room confused or having different views. Whereas if it was not a facilitative learning, but a facilitative meeting, then you're okay with people going out with different views. And then that would move a little more on the process and much less on content. So the reason for calling that out is that basically I'm just looking at helping us look at what group process facilitation is all about. The more you go to the right, the more you're using facilitation skills. And that is why this description given by two very, very renowned facilitators and authors is there on your screen before you. What I would like you to do is just look at it and see if that resonates with something that you have or if that contradicts something that you were thinking. And then just share your thoughts very quickly and then we'll see what we can maybe clarify or understand or have our thoughts around what facilitation is. Okay, any reactions? Agree, disagree?
Agree very much. I love both definitions, but I definitely like Sam Kainer's one where it says that, you support everyone to do their best thinking and practice. I mean, that's so nice. And I think as a facilitator, And from what I've been hearing from everybody is that, it's just encouraging everybody to be the best version of themselves, and, whatever we can help in any way.
Wow, that's a powerful one, right? And that's where, I am now speaking as a person giving my view that the difference between mediation and facilitation is that mediation tries to reach a solution even with a little, let's say, even if it's not optimum, whereas a facilitator, if they actually end up doing a good job, they would arrive at the optimum that is possible, and that might be just a tad different from mediation. But I think that's a very, very powerful thought to how do you bring the best out from everyone. Any other reactions? Sushma, you have had a lot of experience in facilitation. Anything particularly stands out for you there, Sushma?
Like this, facilitator encourages full participation, promotes mutual understanding, and cultivates shared responsibility. I think these three words just sort of come right out of the hole and jump at me.
Right. And you being a facilitator, you probably have been grappling with this and trying to make it happen.
Yes.
Yeah. Any thoughts on how successful you have been on that?
Slowly, I'm getting there. But then sometimes you still get these doubts, when you find some silent participants. Is it because of me or lack of my facilitation skills, or is that person's personality? So those are the type of things that sometimes come in as you get a little more experienced.
Thanks. And you touched upon an interesting thread, right? We sometimes end up doubting whether we are facilitating well enough. And facilitation is a skill, so one can always get better. So I am a certified professional facilitator, and I can tell you I'm maybe just at the tip of the iceberg, still trying to figure out what facilitation really is. So it's an amazing experience. It's a journey, and one can continuously get better. So let's actually change gears a bit and say, where can you use facilitation? And let's have some thoughts. You can feel free to speak, or if you wish to type on the chat, you can do that. If you wish to put up your hand and then get my attention and share, that's welcome too. So any which way, let's get our thoughts. Where can you use facilitation? Okay, defining a vision. Yeah, that's a brilliant start there, Kanav. Thank you for sharing that.
Okay. Uncovering hidden potential.
Yeah, uncovering hidden potential. Wow.
We even push people to go out of their comfort zone so that they can get at least understand there is a higher version possibility of themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And like Geeta saying, where can't you use? Possibly everywhere. Well, there are some places, Geeta, where we don't recommend facilitation. I'm just giving you one example, but there can be others. Sometimes, in a corporate world or even in an NGO, I think you are in an NGO, but even in that, you sometimes have a top-down direction that, okay, we are going to be working from home. It's a top-down directive. There isn't anything to facilitate getting a meeting together and checking whether people are okay with it. You really can't, because it's a directive. So when there is a pre-decided conclusion, then those are areas where you really can't facilitate. I'm just giving you one example. There can be many of that kind. So just to be aware. But yeah, generally, it's a good thought. You can use it everywhere. All walks of life. Achieving common goal to achieve a common process, common purpose. Okay, good thoughts there. Any other things? Anything that you use on a daily basis where you think facilitation can help? Pretty much conducting your meetings, getting certain outcomes in meetings more effectively. There you go. Conflict resolutions. Yep. Generating self-awareness is a big one, Geeta, there. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, workshops which have a pre-decided outcome, could be a learning outcome, it could be a change outcome. Yeah, influencing change, there we go. Thank you. I think lots of interesting thoughts on that. And okay, emotional quotient. Maybe you want to expand that, Geeta? Emotional quotient, did you mean Something in particular?
Yes, I mean, it's basically emotions. See, when we're looking at corporates or anything work related right now, everybody is so technical. I mean, of course, even now we are sitting in front of the computer, and it's, unfortunately not face to face, which I would have preferred. But right now, everybody's so used to that. They're more comfortable sitting in front of a computer rather than sitting in front of another person.
Yeah.
Face to face. So emotional quotient is basically you addressing your feelings, your emotions, and it's like a part and parcel of the self-awareness where you know what you're feeling, how you can lead the team. For example, if you want to be a team leader, you need to understand, the whole team and where they stand and who's good at what and which role they would be good at. That requires emotional quotient.
Fantastic. And lots of very interesting ideas around communication, around generating ideas. We call it brainstorming, setting the foundation for a change in mindset. Wow, pretty powerful. And just to kind of build in on what Geeta just talked about, those emotions and feelings, very often it ties in with the conflict resolution, where because of not bringing out the emotions, the conflict remains a conflict. And once it's all opens up and comes out, then you can actually generate a way forward. And in many conflict resolution facilitation sessions that I have been doing, we use a framework called ORID. That is a form of questioning where you ask questions in a particular way, where at one particular stage, it allows you to explain and expose your feelings and also listen to the other side's feelings. And that then moves to be able to generate ideas on how to work better together. So lots of very interesting frameworks and methods are there in facilitation that come in very handy. Here's an example of a Mumbai-based manufacturing company where the corporate HR, the HRBPs, line managers, various functions, they actually created a facilitation culture in the organization. They would facilitate all hands meetings, learning workshops, even in absolute hardcore teaching that they had to do, they would request that it be facilitated using certain tools like Textra and others, so that there is no one person giving gyan, but people assimilating knowledge. And they kind of created that culture that really brought about, here I just put it, as a significant increase. And that significant, you'll be surprised, was about 230% efficiency up, 72% attrition down, right? 32% customer satisfaction scores up. So that's the kind of thing that can happen by use of facilitation as a culture in an organization. It's not easy to get there, but there are lots of Indian organizations that are heading in that direction. Of course, internationally, there are great examples as well. And there are many examples across NGOs, across various different types of organizations that are there. So we thought we'll just showcase one just to kind of let you in on what it has done for the world. And now let's move in to look at, okay, if all this has to be done, right, what are the core competencies that make it happen? Right? On the chat, I'll share a file which has the updated core competencies. And when I say updated, it's the one that was updated as recent as December 2021. So it's just a few months old. And you'll also be happy to know that all facilitators in the IAF group and also, of course, our endorsed training program, they all get revised in line with the core competencies. So that's where we are. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be placing a file which gives you the core competencies over there. And I'll also allocate, just to make it easy for everyone, I just also allocate that each group work on certain competencies rather than all of them. And here we go. There's a file that's uploading on the chat. Feel free to download that, save it. I'll get you into paired discussion, and I'll be giving each pair one competency for sure and the second one of your choice. And the goal is to discuss what kind of behaviors that will demonstrate that competency. So behaviors are something that you can do, some action that you can take. So what are those actions that will demonstrate those competencies? That's what you're going to do. So there are a total of 6 competencies there, and I'll be having you, okay, I can see more participants have joined, so I'll still create 6 groups. Okay, so you'll probably be about 2 or 3 in a group. And I'll give you your rooms as well. Room 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You go with competency A, B, C, D, E, F in that order. That is one which is assigned to you and the other of your own choice. So 2 competencies is what you're looking at. Read all the sub descriptions of that, and that will immediately give you some ideas, and then you can discuss, capture some behaviors, and have one person in your room that can note it down and put it on chat as soon as you're back. And you'll have 9 minutes to discuss as many behaviors that exhibit those 2 competencies that you are working with. Once again, let me pause and check if everyone understands the instructions clearly. You'll be in 6 breakout rooms. Okay, so you will have 9 minutes, like I said, and of course 15 seconds grace by the time you're back. Okay, I don't see any NQs on the chat either. Are there any questions?
Sanjay, can you just explain one more time what is expected out of us?
Yeah, so you have this core competency document. You can download that. It describes the 6 competencies, A, B, C, D, E, and F, along with their sub-competencies. So have a look at them and particularly pick one that you like and one I'm assigning to each of the groups. If you're in room 1, you'll definitely choose competency A and one another of your choice. Room 2 with competency B, and so on. Does that help?
Yes, got it. Yeah.
Okay. Opening all the rooms now. Oh, I got one which says unable to download the file. Mayank, can you just try again? And if not, I can mail that to you if you type in your mail ID. Meanwhile, you can otherwise manage with the people in your room who can share it on the screen and you can read it. The file is on the chat. Okay. Thanks, Mayank. I'll ask my colleague to send it to you. His name is Mayank as well. He'll send you the file in a moment.
Yeah, 1 second. I'm not able to see the file. Where should I see the file?
On the chat.
I went to the chat.
Can you resend the file on the chat again?
Sorry?
You'll see that file on the chat panel. Yeah. Okay. Someone in your room will then help you, Ramchandra. They'll share the screen and you can have a look at that. Is that okay? Okay.
That's fine. That's fine. No problem.
Perfect. So I'm opening the rooms now. You have 9 minutes to go. All right, everyone. Welcome back. Seeing all of you smile, it looks like you really got into action there. Okay, so let's hear some of them and let's start with competency A, so which means room 1, and any of the other rooms who have also opted to work on competency A will hear from them. So let's start with the persons from room 1. That would be Kanav, Mayank, Sujit.
Yeah, so I'll speak on behalf of the group. We actually spent most of our time only talking about competency A, so we couldn't get to a competency of our choice. But few behaviors or let's say activities that we feel form a part of competency A are starting with active listening in order to create collaboration, right? In order to really maintain the relationship and between the parties, a lot of planning, organizing, and scheduling would be required. Pulling of information from the audience, asking the right kind of questions, using a non-judgmental kind of approach because you want to create a collaborative relationship, so you can't be really taking sides, and there's a lot of elements of mutual commitment, there's elements of consensus that really needs to come in. So if the facilitator themselves is taking sides, then it really becomes detrimental to the entire process. So these were some of the behaviors and activities that we kind of outlined as a part of competency A.
Awesome. Thank you, Kanav, Mayank, Sujit. And any of the other rooms who worked on competency A, would you like to share your thoughts?
Yeah, I think we did.
Go ahead, Geeta.
Kusum and Ram and myself. So I think Ram was mentioning, so develop consensus on tasks, deliverables, roles, and responsibilities. So mostly when we have a clear goal in our process and how we are processing and everything, the outcome. So then that itself is for us. So then we can guide them and ask the right questions so that we can get their behavior and change and get to the outcome from them. Right. So getting them to interact and ask the right questions, and so that we have, the main thing was for us to have a clear goal so that we know how to drive the whole process.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else also worked on competency A?
Yes, from 5, Karishma and I, we did talk about this. And to me, it reminded me of Eric Burns' transaction analysis. So displaying adult kind of behaviors where we respect each other's opinion, even if it's different, and agree to cooperate towards a common objective. And Karishma, you may probably want to add to that.
Yeah, so we were actually given, I think, competency E, but then I was not able to follow that much, so I got more excited reading the first competency, that's A, on building client relationship. And I think there's a lot to do with one of the most common behaviors that we can demonstrate here is about clear communication. Can be something that can go into it, and being very goal oriented in terms of what needs to be delivered. So this is what was my thoughts.
Powerful assimilation of competency A. Thank you, folks. And let's check in with competency B, starting with room 2. That would be Geeta, Kumkum, and Ramchandra.
Yeah. Hi, Sanjay. Kumkum, is it all right? We didn't have enough time, Sanjay. It was too short. I think Ram joined in late, and I had to share my screen because they couldn't download. So it just took a while. So just quickly, Kumkum, would you like to go ahead and talk?
Well, sir, looking at the competency number 2, we found that to bring everybody at par, because we have a different set of learners who are joining us. Probably there are people who will get more from the verbal things. There are people who are more visually oriented. There are people who will learn from storytelling. So to bring everybody at par and to take all the learners, together with us, we believe that there should be a blended learning approach wherein we'll be putting case studies, visual things in the form of videos, some kind of activities, some kind of brainstorming. So putting together the piece of things that is most probably okay for that kind of activity that we have to look at, so that we can bring every learner at par. So this is what we understood, sir, from that competency.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Just checking in with others. Anyone else who also worked on competency B, perhaps? Let me bring it up on the screen just to make sure we are looking at the same thing. Yeah, there we go. Anyone else worked on competency B as a element of choice? Okay, none. That means thanks to Geeta and team for bringing that out. Let's check in with competency C, and that would be Santosh, Sushma, and Shweta.
Okay, maybe I'll talk about it. So that's competency C is mostly on sustain a participatory environment. So we had a lot of descriptors. One is effective participatory and interpersonal communication skills, and also considering the diversity and ensuring inclusiveness, and managing group conflict, and evoke the group creativity. So these are the aspects which were the subcomponents of the main competency. So basically, as a facilitator, the main thing what we thought was in terms of bringing it allowed, in terms of keeping the forum open and having more of exercises or kind of a role plays and quizzes and stuff like that, where we mix different genders, different groups, different experiences. So bringing that kind of inclusiveness, and in fact, that would lead to a lot of conversations and conflicts. And that's where we as facilitators can try to facilitate to arrive at a common consensus. And that's our major role in terms of listening to people, and also hearing their thoughts, and then providing clarity on what would be the end achievable goal. So that's what we discussed, and we didn't have much time to move on to the other competency as such.
Okay. All right. Looks like 9 minutes was just about for one competency. Next time, maybe I should plan to give more time, but that's a learning for me. But thank you for sharing that. Anyone else who has worked on competency C, if you'd like to add on? Whoa, none. Okay. Competency D, we did not have anyone, but did anyone opt for it to think about guiding group to appropriate and useful outcomes? Okay, let's move to competency E in that case. Build and maintain professional knowledge. So that must be from room 5. That was Karishma, Suresh, and Vinesh. Would you like to share your thoughts?
Yeah, just a minute, please. So we looked at what is the kind of behavior that would display that we have knowledge and the how to use and where to use. So let's say, for example, there is a group meeting going on and there is appearing to be some disagreement coming in. Probably we'd pitch in and try to see how we could actually apply some of the techniques of conflict resolution in that particular case. So displaying knowledge of the techniques in active, in situations that are happening in daily working environments. That was what we discussed.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And let's check in with anyone else that wishes to add to it. And here in this particular competency, I'm going to give it a little twist. Even if you haven't worked on it, by looking at these options, any ideas coming to your mind as to what can we do to demonstrate these competencies, this particular competency?
So if I look at this competency, learn new processes, methods, models, and technologies in support of client changing emerging needs. So it is one of the learning that we had during the COVID. So earlier we used to have the physical classroom sessions wherein trainer used to come and give us the classes. But now when we understood the real, the use of this technology. And I would say earlier I was managing one training with one trainer, but now with one trainer, I could manage 3-4 different locations put together. However, there is a other side of it, wherein people are keeping their cameras off, videos off, and don't know what are they doing. So it is something that has evolved during this period, that technology could be utilized for the benefit of many people. However, there is a flip side wherein people how much people are engaged, we never know. So I'm not talking about the competency, but I really believe that probably it can be a requirement, because at times trainers ask for a batch of 10 people, 20 people. And in a particular location, we do not have so many people. But with the help of technology, we can put together, people and can come up with that batch. So we need to understand what is the requirement and accordingly have to look at it.
Incidentally, Kumkum, there are a lot of facilitation methods that have evolved for virtual use to make sure that people are engaged and to even check in on how engaged they are,
Right.
even if they do switch off their video.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, brilliant. But good thoughts there. Anyone else? Any thoughts coming to your mind on?
One point that comes to my mind when I read this on know a range of facilitation methods is adaptability as a facilitator. what may work for one group, it's not necessary it's going to work for the other group. So know your audience and adapt, right? Do you need to use group work? Do you need to use a role play? Do you need to use a simulation, or different things, and adapt accordingly? So that's one thing that comes to mind.
Lovely thoughts there, Kanav. Thanks for sharing that.
I felt that actively, and I use the word very with awareness, actively seeking new knowledge to maintain and build on the professional, whatever profession that we are in.
Right. Awesome.
And it is also important by engaging in ongoing study and learning related to our field. That this I really believe is very important, because there are new technologies which are coming up. Gaming is one of a way of learning nowadays. But if lagging back and we are not learning those skills, probably we will not be in competition. So I think as a facilitator, we should also know how to make use of even the Zoom meeting that ways. If I see Google, then there are Microsoft meetings. There are many things. As a trainer, one should know how to best utilize these technology and make their training equally effective.
Absolutely brilliant, Kumkum. Thanks for sharing that. And that's so true. Even facilitation processes are continuously being added. This entire profession of facilitation is relatively new, which means it's about 18 to 20 years old. And new methods, new processes, new frameworks are continuously being added. And I'll share a little about that as we go. And how one can actually access that and continuously stay on top of our game. And so I think that's another nice thought around this competency. And finally, we have this competency around model positive professional attitude. Room 6, that would be Francis. Would you like to share? I know you did share on the chat already, but would you like to talk about it a bit? Are you there, Francis?
Yes, I'm there, but I guess I'm having some.
Please go ahead.
Am I audible, Sanjay?
Yes,
Hello?
you're now audible.
Okay. Sure. So actually, the competency that we had got, I didn't get a chance much to speak with my partner, but yet, whatever reflection I have when it comes to having positive attitude, I've mentioned the word non-judgmental. So it's very important to be non-judgmental, unbiased. Usually, sometimes biasness comes when we drive processes and systems, and also very important to be non-biased, non-judgmental, and be a very empathetic listener. So these are the 3 points I felt that would be very valuable for competency F.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And for E that I mentioned is it's very important to have the knowledge. When we talk about knowledge, an open thought process to actually, instead of doing facilitation or doing something, it's always good to be part of the process. Like, for example, I have competency. It's very important to demonstrate what we speak.
Right.
Walk the talk kind of thing. So this is how I would like to summarize. Thank you.
Brilliant. Let's see if anyone else has picked this to look at and if they want to share any thoughts.
Sanjay, sorry, regarding the last one.
Yeah.
We didn't pick on that, but just now when I was reading, I was thinking that should we add confidentiality there? Because when you're sharing in the group, that's also an important professional attitude to have, right? Because a lot of people are sharing. So that's maintaining confidentiality or at least assuring the team of that. It's an important thing as well.
Absolutely brilliant and so important. In fact, that reminds me of an incident when I was asked to facilitate for one of the states in the US for the mayor in that, and she came up and requested that I facilitate a conversation with some of the leaders around gun rights, right? Whether they should be given whether common citizens should be given the permission to own a gun or not. Right, and let the group decide and then convert that into a law. So I had to decline that offer, while I was very excited to facilitate for the mayor of a state, but the topic was in conflict with me because I had a very strong bias against having the common man be given the right to buy a gun. So knowing my bias, I just had to turn down the assignment. So just talking about how this core competency is important. And of course, you can turn it down politely, in the sense you can turn it down without having to be rude or saying your point of view, but saying that you can't take it up for your own reasons. So just a thought about looking at how all facilitators need to model professional attitude at all times. It's not only in the room. And the reason for calling that out is even in step A, where you're interacting with a client for the first time, you need to be able to exhibit this particular competency right through. So thank you for that. I think there's some amazing harvest of ideas, lots of behaviors that one can think of. And it almost makes me, compare this and say, if all those capabilities were in a single facilitator, man, that person would have to be God, right? So it'd be like amazingly powerful. But nevertheless, we can always embark on a journey there. And to embark on that journey, one of the things that my company, C2C Organizational Development, brings is the IAF endorsed training program. And what is it, right? So first of all, who is IAF? So the International Association of Facilitators, it's a worldwide body which brings all professional facilitators together. It brings anyone who wants to facilitate together. And they constantly publish, just like you saw this core competencies document, they also publish different methods, different processes, different things that facilitation has created impact either in the community or in a corporate or in different things that they do. They also have various subgroups who specialize in disaster management and various things like that. And these facilitators work towards contributing their methods and processes as well. And that's how this body is growing. And it is recognized as the go-to place for facilitators. And you have the website there on the screen as well. They publish best practices, core competencies. We have a set of values and ethics. And they do a lot of certifications. They have one certification, which is the base layer, which is called Endorsed Facilitator. The next higher level being a Certified Professional Facilitator. And then you have Certified Professional Facilitator Master. So you can do these. And there are 5 companies worldwide that actually created curriculum over the last 2 years or 3 years, because the general people were asking is, how do we learn facilitation? And IAF does not train people. They don't do any training. They only publish all the guidelines, processes, methods, and allow you to explore, experience, and adapt. So 5 companies came, are people all over the world that put together a curriculum, and then they submitted it to the IAF to get it endorsed, so that it actually talks about all these things, values and ethics, core competencies, best practices, and aligns everything with that. And then at the end of it is also certified, though not the same certificate as the IAF endorsed facilitator, but you get a IAF endorsed training participant, which certifies that you have gone through facilitation training. So that's the kind of certification that this program gives. And C2COD is one among those 5 and the only one in India. And it is always delivered by certified professional facilitators. So you can be sure that many of your questions can get answered. And of course, if they can't, they are happy to learn with you also and come back to you with answers. The other thing that we have done in our IAF endorsed training program, now that we are delivering it virtually, we've also got Ingrid Benz. One of the quotes that you saw was from Ingrid Benz. She's one of the facilitators, a master facilitator, who's also written very good books and created e-learning titles. They have 10 modules. And we actually tied up with her and said that for all those who go through this program, we should provide them this entire repository of 10 modules. So that comes in along with the IF endorsed training program. And we have worked it like a learning journey where you work with 3 titles and then we have a session, and then you work another 3 titles and then we have another session, so that we actually try and get that learning internalized. That's the beauty of this program. And along with that, there are some additional books and things like that, which we send to all the participants in the program. And the more important thing, what we really need to know is that facilitation is not just about delivery. It's not just about running the workshop. It's about design, it's about delivery, and then it's about post-learning after that. So we call this like architect, pilot, and guide, right? We use that phrase. As an architect, you design your facilitated workshop. As a pilot, you actually run the workshop. And then as a guide, you help the participants sustain whatever change that they wanted to go ahead with. So this is how we have structured our IF endorsed training program, which we believe covers the entire spectrum from those 6 competencies that you saw also. And in fact, to give you very, very clear and specific detail, we thought we have invited one of the participants who went through our previous program. His name is Yash Kunte, and he has joined us. First of all, warm welcome to you, Yash. And let me first open it out for you to share whatever you wanted to about your experience in the program, and then we can invite any questions from the participants.
Sure. Thank you so much, Sanjay, and good afternoon to everyone who's on this call. Sanjay, I have to say that getting back on this Zoom screen and seeing you there just reminds me of those days when I used to say, and we used to have our sessions every Friday morning. So I used to tell Sanjay, it's like, my weekend has started early. So it's great to be here, and thank you for having me. So my story is, so I just thought I'd kind of quickly walk you through what my story was, how I got to know of this program itself and why it excited me essentially. So through some of the work that happened in my previous organization, we had a senior colleague, a consultant who was using certain practices and certain methods that intrigued me, and he was working with our organization closely. And being in the HR team, we were also seeing his work from the from the backstage, so to say. So that kind of intrigued me, and what I noticed was that he was always this person on the side guiding the direction of the conversation, but never really being in the conversation. And at the end of the conversation, we would have figured whatever we needed to figure, right? So that's how my initial experience was. And then I asked him, I said, with a few years, I said, what is happening? What are you doing? And that's how I got to know of this word facilitation in the first place. And he said that there's a body and there's a method to it, there's a process, there's tools, all of that, which I was intrigued by, which certainly seemed interesting. And like Sanjay mentioned, his gun rights story, I used to hear other stories from from that consultant, where he used to talk about a variety of topics where he would be involved. So things like having the governments of Singapore, Malaysia, and Thailand coming together and figuring out some sort of, trilateral framework. I'm like, who does that sort of a conversation? I mean, how does all of that work? So anyway, I had that sort of fascination with the topic. And then he told me it has a name and that there's a method and process to it. What I couldn't really do was make inroads into this while I knew I was interested, because as Sanjay mentioned, there was really no structure to knowing more, right? So I found a lot of information online, but there was no program as such. And so early this year, I came across the endorsed training program. I jumped at it, and that's how I got in. I think the fun thing about this was that there was a great balance of theory as well as practice. The theory came from, like Sanjay mentioned, the Ingrid Benz modules, extremely structured, comprehensive sorts of modules, which take you through the entire journey of facilitation one at a time. But I think the real meat comes from applying that theory to practice. So where one is in a room and you're able to ask questions, you're able to kind of actually design and deliver and kind of be guided on at each step to say, okay, how could you have done this differently. You're also in a cohort of like-minded people or people who are also interested in the same sort of aspect, and so you learn from people as well, working with them as well. So I think this particular program for me offered that space where there was a sense of formal learning grounded in theory, and where you actually do things in practice. One of the things that I did feel was that it could have been a little better paced out. I think the common thread at the end of any facilitation conversation is that we did not have enough time to complete that conversation. We just tend to enjoy that. So I think that kind of continued on to the program itself. And we did feel that if we had it was slightly paced out, we would have been able to apply things better. But that's feedback that we shared with the team, and they took it positively, so I'm happy there. That was the only thing, right? So, but apart from that, the program for me, it was exactly what I was looking for, to get an introduction into the space, to know what it means, to understand what it is to really become a facilitator. And it's of course only the first step, because as I now understand that facilitation is not, it's not about knowing the theory, but it's actually about running programs and designing them and delivering them and so on. So that's been my story, Sanjay.
Thank you, Yash. Thank you for your very candid share. Really appreciate that. And the point on your feedback, of course, well appreciated, and we would love to get feedback because that's how we can get better. Thank you for doing that. And I'd like to, at this time, open this option for anyone. If you have any questions for Yash, maybe you can ask him. Okay, we received one question on private chat, so maybe he wants to stay anonymous, but I'll just toss it over to you. So how did this program specifically help you in your designing facilitation workshops? So I'm assuming it means any kind of facilitation workshops. So
sure. So a couple of things. One is, of course, like we mentioned, there's the architect, pilot, and guide framework. So where the program itself focuses on each of these three parts, again, through the Ingrid Benz module theory, as well as what we do in class, right? So so we will have a scene where we're given a certain set of business cases, which we actually understand and see which method to apply. Does facilitation apply here in the first place, and so on. And then we actually design a program to see how we could facilitate through that case to reach a resolution, right? So that is the way the program itself is kind of structured. But the other interesting aspect that I found is, as part of the program design itself, was that it was an open design, right? So what I want to mean by that is that when Sanjay and team would actually deliver the program, they would intentionally make mistakes. I don't want to have like spoilers here, but they would make mistakes. And then we would actually kind of reflect on, should this have been done differently? Or not just mistakes, but they would throw questions back to us saying, why do you think we spent X amount of time on this activity? Should we have done more? Should we have done less? Or should we have used a different tool? Should we have used a different process? What do you think worked here? What do you think did not work? So when the program itself is open and you're kind of seeing a live demo of design and delivery, that just adds a lot of value additionally, because you're seeing the experts sort of planning it and designing it and delivering it at the same time. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, absolutely. I got a prompt response also on the chat. Okay, thank you, Yash.
I have one question,
if
I may, and Sanjay or Yash, anyone could take this, right? Now, at the end of the program, does it culminate in a certification, or it's so? Because I'm reading that there is the IAF certified professional facilitator, endorsed training program. If you could just throw a little bit of light on that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So Yash, can I take that?
Yes, absolutely. You're the expert here.
So IAF has certifications which are run based on IAF's process and methods, and one can apply to IAF, and if you get through the application process, then you get invited to experience the entire journey of certification. And at the end of the journey, you either get the certificate or you get deferred, and you're given feedback as to what you did not demonstrate, and then you can go back, re-demonstrate that, and then get your certification. That's the IAF method. What IAF endorsed training providers can give you is only a IAF endorsed training certificate. It's not an endorsed facilitator certificate. That's the difference. The difference in terms of the ability to do facilitation or design facilitation workshop or grow in your facilitation workshop, what we are being told is that it's at par, par of the endorsed facilitator level, which means that we help you work out how you want to build and plan and sustain your facilitation and grow as you want to grow at your pace that you want to grow. We are able to help that or instill that during the endorsed training program itself. But at the end of the endorsed training program, you will receive a certificate, which I believe a lot of companies, especially because of the brand of C2COD, they do respect that and say that, oh, okay, you are a facilitator. So to that extent, you get the value on that. Thanks, Kana, for that question.
Thank you, Sanjay, for the answer.
Oh, we got one more question. I think it's coming in separately. Can I just read that out? And maybe, Yash, you can look at it. So in this program, was it that you were asked to work by yourself? Because I was told that there is post-work between sessions, or would you be able to work as a group, and how did you manage that?
Sure. So no, it's a lot of group work. The stuff that you do on your own is going through the e-learning modules. That's an individual activity. But every other activity between sessions that you come prepared with is group work. It was not too difficult really to coordinate with each other. So we would pretty much, we would get an email with the list, with the case and the list of participants. We were given the contact details in advance. So all we had to do was kind of connect on email with each other, figure a common time, and connect on call and make it happen. So it was pretty seamless. We just had to do it after work hours or a little bit on weekends, but I don't think that's too much. I mean, it definitely wasn't too much trouble. Yeah, it was fun to do.
A question from my side, was it worth it?
Do you need to ask Sanjay?
Okay, just
it was certainly fun. It was certainly fun.
So thanks a lot, Yash. I truly appreciate the time taken and joining us. I'm sure it has helped the participants as well. So deep gratitude and thanks for that, Yash.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, and best of luck to everyone who's joining in the program. So I'm guessing I'll be dropping off now, Sanjay.
If you wish to, otherwise we'll be wrapping up in about 5 minutes. Actually, not even 3 minutes.
Okay.
So just to recap, yeah, but thanks, Yash. And
yeah,
so just to recap for everyone else, in the IFETP, like I already said, you learn how to design, how to deliver, and how to continuously build and develop. You'll also get a lot of understanding of how to use a few facilitation methods and tools. Mostly the common tools like brainstorming, focus group discussions, needs and offers, simulation analysis, lots of interesting tools, root cause analysis, force field analysis, all of that. Start your journey to prepare for IAF credentials in case you're interested in that. Because a certificate from here qualifies for one portion of your application. So that could help. Of course, like we said, e-learning modules from Ingrid Pence, that is there, and a few other useful things which will be a surprise for those who are participants in the program that is coming up. Details about the program, when it is, and the costs, my colleague Mayank will share that with you over email. And you can interact with him and then look at how it works for you. And of course, you are also welcome to invite any of your friends who wish to facilitate or learn about facilitation. So that was all that we had in this time, but I'm open for any questions. I see that we have a couple of minutes left. So if any, and of course, I'm happy to stay on even further. If you have any questions, I can try and answer them. All right, but thank you everyone, and really, really appreciate the time that you have taken to attend this webinar, and have a lovely evening ahead of you.
Thank you, Sanjay. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Geeta.
Thanks, Sanjay. Wonderful. Bye.
Thank you, Sushma. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Sanjay.